welcome to the Book Over, a little book club where we talk about books, especially the ones that give us book hangovers. I'm Sarah, with me is Megan.
Hey.
And today we are talking about Dukes of Madness by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue.
One of our favorites.
Oh, I love the royals. I love this world. I love it all. I read it and I go, I don't know what's wrong with me for loving this so much.
Nothing is so well written. It's so unique. Like, it's just, and it's so addictive.
Yeah.
Brilliance, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they can take these dark characters and they can make them do these bad things but also redeem them is just, it's perfection. You would think there's no coming back from this, and then what do? They redeem these characters.
Yeah, this book was like a huge redemption arc, I feel like, going on, like, for a lot of them. This was a good book. This was a good middle book. It's everything I would hope for this group, because it means so much for the next book too, what we went through in this book. It's such a good,
they needed to go through these things for their journey and their character growth and their development. And what unique characters that they write, like these full-fledged, they're not like any other characters I read before. They have like multifaceted personalities, and they're exaggerated versions, but they're so human and they're deeply flawed, just like human beings are. And there's like so many sides to them, and that's how like human nature is. You can be good, you can be bad, and in fairy tales, like, the heroes usually sort of start out like moral, and maybe they go through a journey and an arc, but like, there's something about dark romance and having these like dark, very human, but like dark human flawed characters, and then being able to, I don't know, redeem them. There's something like relatable about that, because that's more realistic. They're more realistic humans than like some like hero with his like ridiculous morals.
Right. Well, and like, nobody's perfect. So, like, I love that we're seeing everybody's flaws. Every character in this book has a flaw. And then even some of them are realizing that, like, like Lavinia a couple of times mentioned how she doesn't know how to be loved, so she doesn't know how to give love back, because she has no clue, so it's that there's a couple of times she mentioned it, and I like highlighted it because I was like, yeah, it's true, you don't know, because poor thing with her father and sister and everything. So I don't know where to start on this book, because I just finished it last night.
and I finished it a few days ago.
So I don't know.
I feel like, should we start from the beginning, where okay, so last book, Sigh, which was fantastic because they put us through this trauma of Nick, who loved her but didn't know how to love her, kind of like of mice and men style, like being like, okay, in his mind, in his twisted mind, he thinks he's doing what's right by giving her back. That she had a time limit on her. He thinks, she'll never love him. He did something to her that he can't really face, so he gives her back. He immediately regrets it, but he does it. And then Sai, of all people, rescues her. And he says this because of Remy, but I think there's more to it. And in this book, like, Sai and Remy like nurse her back to health. Like, you see the softer side of Sai, where he's the kind of the knight in shining armor, rescuing her from the chest. And like, you see the caring side, the side of him that writes in this journal, and even though it's very clinical, it's like loving, that that's the way it comes out for him. It's like, clinically like writing notes on like how she's doing, just like he does with Remy. So he's like nursing her back to health. He's dealing with the arc. He's begrudgingly dealing with the Archduke, and deep down he just like really wants that cat to love him.
No, okay, so Sai, he has grown on my list, like, because first book, and it's like, it's Sai. He's mean to her. He has issues about women. What's his deal? Like, get over it, dude. And now, like, he rescues her. He's taking care of her, and then the scene, this is like towards the end, middle, I don't know, where Lavinia walks in with Balzac, and he's feeding archduke fish.
The salmon, yeah. Like a nice gourmet like meal.
Yeah, and he's like, it's I had extra. It's not like I made it for the cat. You know, I was just like, oh my gosh, you love the thing. He loves the thing.
Yes.
You know, I loved it. But
That's just so him.
he did grow a lot in this
So much,
book.
yeah.
So much. I feel like all the characters really had a lot of growth in this book.
Yeah. Particularly Nick and Sai. I think they had the most.
Yes.
Growth.
I agree. And I loved him taking care of her, but also there's a scene where Lavinia was upset and she went to Sai and Sai didn't know what to do, and he takes her to Remy. And that for me was everything. Just that he was like, I know I can't help, but Remy will know what to do, you know, like, and then they all cuddled that night, and I was just like, oh.
And I love that. And she even says Sai was kind of the person that he like her safe spot that she went to. But like you said, like when he didn't know how to do it, he went to Remy. And I really loved that. I loved that for them. And yes, Sai had the issues with having, you know, he's a virgin and he's very insecure, and you know he's got such a big member. And it's so funny because you would think the little you know syndrome, but no, it's the opposite. It's the big syndrome for him. And it's so funny that his mom's a therapist, that him, like Nick's mom and Sai's mom is a therapist. It's just so funny to me.
I love so when I was upset with him though. I was upset with him with Sai when he lost his virginity.
Yeah.
And he pushed her to do it. He you know, she said to stop. He didn't listen. And that was really upsetting to me because he was her safe space for a really long time. And he took it too far just because he let all those negative thoughts come in with everybody watching them, and something that should have been between the two of them. Because on it, and like she later tells them, like, you know, if you would have asked, we would have worked towards it.
Yeah.
You know, we could have done this, you know, and so I kind of liked him going back to his parents' house, and like him being with his parents and his mom trying to, like, you know,
analyze
and he's like, I'm not going to talk to my mom about it. And then just, but you know, it's like, and I really, you know, as much as I felt for Lavinia for that part, like I loved Pretty Nick's response to it.
Yes, it created the perfect, like, when I think that needed to happen for for all of their character development.
Yeah, well, I liked that. Yeah, it was just
so she came up with that deal with Sai, which I loved that they did that. Like, you know, Sai gets beat up and they have to like hold up, what, you know what I mean, in the hotel
at the motel. Yeah.
Yes. And I love all the Tristan appearances this book. We got a lot of Tristan this book.
I'm so happy we got him. I'm like, someone listen to me. Probably not, but you know, my universal call for more Tristan happened. That made me,
it was perfect.
So happy. But then we missed Wrath. We did not get him.
We got a little bit but we got him, I think, last. But I think because of the pre-existing relationship with him helping with Lavinia, I think that he wouldn't have worked in some of the scenes.
Yeah.
This book, so I think it worked for it to be Tristan, especially since Tristan comes about later on with like the explosives. I think they needed to establish Tristan, like her knowing who he was more. Yeah. But I enjoyed that, like with his like smelly like remedies to try to help Sai. Yeah. But like they come up with that deal where, like, you know, he's gonna help protect her, like teach her how to protect herself, and she's gonna help like teach him about sex. So I think that was kind of the perfect way for their relationship to grow more, and for them to kind of fall in love with each other. And like and I like the idea of, instead of like going to everyone's bed every night, it was her and his thing. Like they went to bed together every night. That's what they did. I don't know, it helped their falling in love story. Yeah. So then it was especially hard, but I think I kind of saw it coming because, you know, that's how they initially kind of found not common ground, but like he became okay with her because like during that ceremony at the Baron's like bonfire, like they did that. And image is so much to him, and such a big part of his trauma, like, well, not trauma, but like his issue. So I can see how he accidentally took it too far in front of people. Like,
Yeah.
they were doing a little bit in front of people, a little PDA is okay, but then he just
he took it
like,
too far.
yeah, his brain took over, and he's like, just a little more, like giving into her, giving into the crowd. And
Yeah.
I love that he left the journal for her at the end. Like, he really, like, it took him a minute. Nick came, and Nick, like, yeah, Nick's response was the best. He was like, you hurt her, they had the fight. He's like, you hurt her too. And it was like, oh, it was
and
so
then
good.
Remy, Remy's just like, wait, what happened? And it's just like, Remy.
Yeah. Remy was having he was Remy this book. He was up and down, back and forth. Yeah.
I love Remy. And I don't know if I'm ready to talk about Remy. Let's talk about Pretty Nick.
Let's talk about
work our way to Remy here.
Let's talk about Pretty Nick.
Pretty Nick. I mean, you said this. Megan and I, of course, text messaged, and she read this before I did and was like, "Are you done yet?" And then I would like update her on where we were at, and she mentioned how Pretty Nick is like the best redemption arc, because I loved how like everyone was so mad at him at the beginning of the book, so angry that even like at the Velvet Hideaway, they're no one will take him, and then Killer is
the cut sluts, like
everyone is just like, even like, I love how Ballsack goes up to Vinny and was like, we're on, we're here for you and stuff. I loved how everyone was like, we're done with you. You didn't do this, was not okay for you to do, all these other people are on your side. And so I really liked him getting that punishment. And I loved Story helping Lavinia out. I loved Story's apology to her about how like she found out more of the story and everything, and how she was there for her, because I do feel like the royal women should be less catty. They should be actually working together. They should be supporting each other. And that story, like, if you guys have read the Lords, like she wanted that community, and she that did not work out well for her. So like, that's what Story, I like that Story and Lavinia might have that relationship where they help out each other when they need it. And so with the house, I did not see that coming, getting him in the cage. And part of me was like, Lavinia, don't do it. You know how like horrible it is. But I think she needed to go on that dark side of her being a count and those things happening to her, and like embracing that side of herself he needed that too. He needed to know what he sent her to. He needed to understand the cage that she's been in multiple, the metaphoric cage too, So, and that was the turning point. Like, as soon as she got him out of that, I feel like that's when things really started like working better between them.
They started like understanding each other a little bit more. And I think for the reader, I think for everybody, I think Nick needed to be punished. I think that needed to happen for us to be able to forgive him. I think he needed to do these selfless acts, because in the cage, it wasn't he was accepting of it. He's like, yeah, I deserve this. Like, the gun incident, he tossed the gun. So I think that was.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, he needed that. And then he needed, I don't know what I want to say here. He needed to work past the original agreement that they had the first book, that like, I give, you give, or I take and you give kind of thing that they were doing, I guess.
The bartering.
They needed to move past that to actually develop that like thing. And so for him, just the crypt at the Baron's house, and how he just willingly was like, yeah, I'm gonna play Russian roulette on your behalf. I was just like, wait, what? And I was so mad at her. And then I was so mad at the Barons, because she was saying don't do it, and they wouldn't let it not happen. And I was like, but she's saying no. Like, good job.
So twisted. Like, that was a good insight into how messed up and twisted they are, the way they were talking about death. Because we've gotten little bits of the Barons before, but this was the first book where we really was more than just like, oh, they like blood and they're ritualistic. This was like the shadows and death, and we really got more insight into the Barons. And at the beginning of the book, there's like a little like I don't want to say map, but like a graphic um of each like kingdom, the princes, the barons, and it said like the barons like unknown. It's like it's and like they have no alliance. So that was very interesting and a little bit of foreshadowing.
Yes.
You looked at the graphic, which was very interesting.
Yes, I did look at the graphic, and I did find that interesting that they were smack dab in the middle of it. North side, south side, east and west, but they're just in the middle. And I was like, oh, so they work with everybody? Like I'm trying to I'm like, what?
And like we don't know who the bear, who's the king of the baron. So that was definitely very interesting. And yeah. But I think again with that, I think these are things that needed to happen for Nick. I think he needed to prove himself selfless. I think that he needed for us to forgive him for oh my gosh, I almost called her Story, for Lavinia, for Vinny, to forgive him. I think he needed to do these selfless acts because his love was so selfish before. It was so like, why can't you love me? Like you said, she didn't know how to be loved. And there was this big communication. That was her captor for so long. So she needed to view him differently. So I think I love the way that they handled like these different like steps of Nick doing it. And he wasn't doing it. I think he came to terms with like, okay, she's not probably ever going to love me, but I'm okay with Sai and Remy being with her. That was another thing. Like he was able to accept them. And then it just felt earnest and honest and raw for him to do these things and not expect anything back.
Exactly.
And I think that's what he needed.
I also loved his kiss tattoo, his victory tattoo.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's like, and then I'm like, it's still pretty big. It just totally makes sense. But there's just those moments too with Lavinia where she went and helped him out as well. Like after the cage, she helped him a little bit, and then like with shaving, she helped him, and then after Perez, like I was not expecting that. I was
not either.
Not expecting it. I love Sai's response. It's like, good, it's about time. Like, but I was just like, and then how she helped like clean the blood up and like bring him back. I was not expecting it. And he's so good, like tricking her, like to be like, kiss me so he can figure out where she was. And then like he could smell like the cleaner. And so he knew to like go look in this area and stuff. All of it, I was just like, oh my gosh, he's smart. Like people don't give him enough credit for it, but he's just so smart. Like even how he like mentioned how like every book she's ever read, he's read. Like, like, and she was like, those are things that he never shared. And that's part of like them growing with like the relationship and the love part too, is like once he needs to open himself up a little bit so she can actually get to know who he is, because and he needs to share it too so he can remember who he is, because he's playing so many different, he's all over the place, that he was working with like the South Side for a while and stuff that he needs to get back to.
You're right. He was, the more that I think about it, you're very right that he was, coming out of spending like 2 years basically undercover, and he made so many connections and it worked for him. And it is like he's kind of a chess player and people don't realize it because he's a pretty face and kind of like a thug. But like, that's another thing. He did all this plan to get her. He thought she would automatically be grateful and all that. But you're right. He also had to like kind of like come back to himself, come back to his family. Like I'm sure he had, it took him a minute to get out of that mode. So I think it was a rude awakening. And like from the moment he saw her, being nursed back to health and what happened, and he left because he couldn't deal, because he felt bad. And I love that no matter what, he always still loved her.
I love how each character or each of the guys had a point in this book where they screwed up and they felt bad, and they like, all of them were like, I don't deserve you, like at some point, and it's like, that's good, because the first book they were like, you're mine and you'll do what I want you to do. Like she's changed from being a possession to being like a person, Yeah.
and giving her freedom, cell phone. And that was another thing. It's her first time having freedom. How I like how Remy had taken her to get her choose her own clothes. Like she had never gotten a choice because she was, in the counts, and she didn't have a choice back then. She was a prisoner for 2 years. She loves to learn, she loves to read, and she was so excited. Like my heart warmed for her that she got to go to school. Like I felt so happy for her.
Yeah.
Like I'm so into these characters in this world that like my heart got so happy that
Yeah.
this girl who just is so excited for something that a lot of people might take for granted,
Mm-hmm.
going to school,
Mm-hmm.
that she gets to go learn. And she said that she was that girl who like raises her hand and asks
Yeah.
a ton of questions, but like she's just so like excited to learn. And I'm like, oh my god, I love this for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was so happy for her that she got that freedom, and is, she's working on herself too,
Mm-hmm.
because she was a captive, so she's trying to like figure out her place, have her freedom,
Mm-hmm.
kind of come to terms with the guys, like, that they're not necessarily the enemy either. What it means to be a duchess versus like when Sai's like, "Are you my girlfriend?" Like, if that was the cutest moment
Yeah.
when he was like, "But
Yeah.
like, are you my girlfriend?" She like doesn't know how to be a girlfriend, but like
Yeah.
none of them do.
But she was
Uh,
honest with them about it. Like I love the fact
yes,
that she was like,
yes,
I don't know how to be one, but like I can be your girl,
yeah,
and I love that because it just
hmm
I love that now she's being honest about that. Before she would have just let them believe whatever they wanted to believe or feel rejected or
hmm
whatever. And now she's like, realizing she needs to say those things. And I love her falling into the Duchess role and
yeah,
everyone's saying like she's actually really good at it and meant to be it. I know it's hard for her because she's so used to being in the background and not center of attention, and she doesn't like to be in the attention. But that's what I need from her in the next book. I need her to really grasp this Duchess role. And so, okay, this will lead us into some things that happen with Remy, because I need her to basically like put her foot down on some stuff and really show
hmm
that like she's the queen of the Dukes,
yeah,
right? She's the Duchess, and that this is how things are going to go, and she's not going to stand for some of this shit, because I really need her to like show that now, because she is strong. I don't think she sees herself, I think,
hmm
that way, but she is very strong, and she needs
yeah,
to now be like, no, this is it. So okay, so Remy's my favorite. He was my favorite from the start. I love
hmm
Remy, which is actually quite surprising to me, I think, because I have a hard time with like drugs. It's not a thing I'm okay with. So like to love a character that is struggling with it is hard for me.
Really? See, we're so
But
opposite because I love when a character has an addiction.
see, like the thing with like his addiction is like he's not ready to stop it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're telling him to stop, but he's not at that point where he's willing to have the help to stop. And so I need that to happen with him. Um, but despite his addiction,
Mm-hmm.
like I still love I love Remy. And
They were. Mm-hmm. I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
there was a line that I really liked, and it was Remy saying that he didn't understand why he's been put on so many other meds. He has to take meds all the time, but like he can't have the meds that he wants that makes him feel better.
Yes, I
And I just
highlighted
think
that.
that,
Yes.
yeah, like that's his mindset, and I think that's how a lot. I mean, that's the thing. I think it definitely depends on the drug, and I think the Count's drugs are like very terrible, but he's mentally ill and he's trying to self-medicate.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I think it's a bad combo for him, but I think that's so realistic, where a lot of people with mental health issues do
Yeah.
seek seek stuff like that. So I understand where he's coming from.
Right.
And especially with his father twisting his mind,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
And that's the thing. Like I feel for him, and that's why it's like
Mhm.
his artistic. I mean, I even wrote in a note like at one point, like I wish I could see colors like he sees them. Like I wish I could
Right.
like I wish I could look at somebody like, oh, you're blue today. Like I wish I
It's
could
like the
do that. I
aura, but
I
with
love that.
colors.
I
It's
love
brilliant.
and then just how he like
Mhm.
the drawing on the back of the door, how he'll just
Yeah.
do this and do like I love everything about his personality. Um
hmm
all
So
of it,
cool.
all the different ones, when he's just
Yeah.
like crazy to like, I don't want to call it normal, but like, like it just
He's not
all the
having a
levels.
manic episode. Yeah, when
Yeah.
he's like taking her to get clothes
Yes.
and
Yes.
and when he has those moments of like he's worried about her,
Mm-hmm.
but then she's he counts the points on the tattoo. They're kind of she's the stabilizer for him, or was for a
Yeah.
while. And I loved getting the color wheel too, of where we got to know what the colors meant
Yes.
more.
Yes.
And like then we got to know about like why his hair was like white, and like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
I'm like I need to write this color wheel down.
Right.
And
I
I want to
know. Me
start
too.
I want to
Me
start
too.
calling people. I'm like, you're very orange today, like
Yes.
like
Bronze. You're bronze.
yeah, but I was like, I want
And
to start
that's a
making a
connection
color
with the
wheel.
whole Baron thing too, the
Uh-huh.
bronze thing and stuff
Oh,
too.
that's a great point.
But yeah, with him, I just he takes, no matter where he is in his mental state, he's there. He was almost always there for Vinny. Almost. I mean, for the most point, like if she's hurt, he'd be like, "Who hurt you? Let me see."
Yeah.
Like he was there for her, physically and spiritually. And
It
he was
definitely had
even
a
like,
deep.
he even pulled like a Tristan. I with the he starts tattooing Lavinia. And then after that, they're like making out, and then he's gonna go down on her, and then Sai walks in. And then he
Oh
totally
yeah, the
coaches
sex
Sai on how to go down on
referee.
her. Like I'm in the
I
hair
love that.
salon
Oh my gosh, really?
reading this, going, don't look in the mirror because I don't want to know if I'm blushing right now.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
Like the books we read in public, um but I love that. Like he's taking care of her, and he knows, he's very bright. He knows what people think of him. He knows what even like his friends think, and he knows a lot more than what he lets on. And I like how he's laid back about that too a lot of the time though. But so I know what upset probably most people was when he got mad at Lavinia, and his dad screws of his head, and
Yeah.
like I never liked his dad, never liked him. And then when he showed up at the house at night, and he, like, the dad said those things to him, and that made him think that the dad's been with Lavinia, was just,
Well, and did you think during some of his chapters, at first I was thinking, okay, he's hallucinating his dad being here. And then as it goes on, I'm like, no, wait, his dad is just messing with him so much that like even the audience isn't sure what is real in Remy's head or not. Because for a while there, I thought we were like witnessing Remy in such a bad episode where he was starting to hallucinate his father, and that was going to come back, and he was going to believe that, and that's how it was going to happen. But I believe that like he never hallucinated his dad. I think his dad
I
was
don't think
effing with him
yeah.
the whole time.
I think it's,
On
well,
purpose.
okay,
He's
when
so
we get
sick in the head. He's so, I mean, we know now that his father is the Baron King. And then we got a taste of him in the Nick scene, which I think was that was really well done and connected. So then we see like how twisted his mind is in the games that he plays, and how he likes the brutality, and then that dinner, I just feel like he's been messing with his son's mind purposefully.
yes.
Not just to forget things, but like to play this kind of game with him.
Yeah. So he mentioned at the end of the book, the dad, that he's been giving Remy hints, and that he's just so dumb he didn't figure it out. Well, Angel and Sam were giving us hints, because like you were saying, like, did he hallucinate? And I trusted that Remy wasn't hallucinating it. So like, if you think about it, when Will showed up to drop the note in Nick's lap of who to get the meeting, he said he's there 1 second and then he's gone, and it's like a ghost, right? Like, and so his dad's the same way. That now it makes sense that he's the Baron King, because he's there like 1 second and then he's gone, like a ghost, right? So like that's like, it's just a subtle little hint, but that's
good catch, Sarah. Yeah.
So, and then it's like with Remy, him like with the dagger, and he's like, where did that dagger come from? And he's like, that wasn't there before, something else was there before. And then he put together that the pistol was there before. So that's yeah. And it's just like poor, because his dad keeps playing these games of him. Why did his dad never just come right out and tell him? And then the
I
whole
think his
William
dad is
name thing,
mentally
I
ill.
took me a second. I'm reading over. I'm like, William, Billy. And I like, it took me until this morning on my dog walk to be like, Liam, because Liam's not a William. And then I was like, wait, yes, it is.
Yeah, so that was very interesting that
Mhm.
it was all connected that way.
Yeah.
Well, and then did you notice that he mentioned that Remy's mom, he was going to put Remy in a hospital next to his mom. So
Mhm.
I don't know if we had heard about Remy's mom before now, but evidently she's been locked away in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
Did Remy know this? I would love to know if this is like his first
Right. First time
hearing
hearing
of
it.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and the fact, I like that Nick instantly believed him. As soon as Lavinia said it, like Nick was like, no, 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 no. Remy is smart. He makes connections, just like he did with the Tate thing. It's
Mhm.
just he may be having a manic episode and he may be going through stuff, but like he's not crazy. He makes these connections that other people don't. It's just he doesn't know what to believe and what to trust, and his dad messes with him so much.
Mhm.
And that's, his dad purposefully did this to separate him from the Duchess. Like I think he knew exactly what he was doing,
Yeah.
from the dinner, all these subtle clues to make Remy think that she was like betraying him.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he said he never lied to him, but like he was like twisting the truth in
Twisting it.
different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, cheating is a big deal.
Yeah.
However, I think that this is the most like forgivable cheating because he's
Yeah.
so out of his mind at this time. His dad's manipulated him. He's so high on drugs. He thinks that like the first of all, lying is huge. We know that lying is his trigger. So he thinks that he's being betrayed, lied to. His dad has messed with his head. That's the biggest betrayal would be his dad. Like I can kind of forgive it, and I do agree with what Lavinia said about like like Haley, knew that he was spiraling, and she, I hope she gets her comeuppance because like that wasn't cool of her, and I don't think the woman should always be blamed. Don't get me wrong, but when somebody's in a mental state like that, like can you really trust that they're like?
She's taking advantage of the situation. So if it was a
Yes,
man, that man could have been, in
if
big
it was the
trouble for sexual
opposite,
assault.
exactly,
So,
exactly, because
yeah,
he's
yeah. But I had,
not only he's high and he's having a mental breakdown.
yeah, and she knew better,
He
and
knew better.
so I was expecting much worse on the cheating. So I was actually disappointed because I was so worked up. I had clues that this was going to happen because of a
Well,
spoiler
yes,
that was
you got
leaked.
yes.
And so I was just so anxious because Remy's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I was disappointed in the cheating because I was like, it's just a blowjob. And yes, it is cheating, but there was much, like you said, there's a much worse cheat that could happen.
Yeah.
Do I forgive him? Not exactly. I think he needs to, like Lavinia, I think is going to be upset with him and they're going to have to work through it, but he's her Remy. She even says that to him when she finds him on the cliff. She's like, you're my, you're my Duke. I'm your Duchess. I'm here for you. Like she's not going to throw away the relationship over something because she's seeing that there's something else going on in him that you know, he wasn't understanding everything and he was thinking things that weren't true. Yeah, did it hurt? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it hurt me,
For
like
sure.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it
but
definitely
this
hurt.
is the part where I feel like Lavinia needs to have a cut slut meeting and be like, look,
Yes.
hands
Mm-hmm.
off. I will be doing this. I will be there. What
Yeah,
is
and
it?
let's boot
Yeah,
Haley.
the hand wrapping. She's gonna be, leading them to
Mm-hmm.
their fights. She's gonna be taking care of them after the fights. They're there if I say you need to be there. And she needs to tell the
Mm-hmm.
guys that too. Like, you are
Yeah.
mine, I am yours, nobody else. You know, like this is the point where she needs to lead them because like Verdi's gonna stand up for her. The
Of
other
course.
girls are gonna be on her side, but Haley needs to be put in her place. And the other ones need to. There was somebody else who I think hit on Pretty Nick at the
Yeah.
party and he like shut
Yeah.
her down, which I loved about
Which I
Pretty Nick.
love.
Like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, the other girls need to be put in their place, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Lavinia's gonna have to do it.
Well, I really love that Pretty Nick had even said like, even if I can't have you, it's only you.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pretty Nick has had earned, I mean, that was pretty terrible what he did last time, but he's earned his place back in my number one. Because for a while there, it was Sai for me. Like, Sai was giving me almost Tristan vibes with how caring he was, even though he was like mean about, they just, I don't know. I loved their relationship this book. Like, Sai really won me over. Like, I was like, and I love them all. I really do. But pretty Nick,
he really won me over.
He was the one that she could go to. I felt like he was the one that she could trust and go to, and like just knew he was going to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll do whatever I have to do. His growth was absolutely amazing. And I felt like I'm so immersed in this world that I feel safe with Pretty Nick. I'm like, Pretty Nick is her safety. Out of all the people who he's hurt her so much, but he's different now, and it's a beautiful redemption arc. And I loved their scene of making love and how much it meant to him.
Well, and I love how he's like, I've never done this before too, out of all the things he's had to do with like at the Velvet Hideaway and everything else he's had to do, and that was like a first for both of them, which I loved. I loved it. Yeah. And so the ending, they're on the cliff, all the barons are now after them, which was insane.
That was crazy. Yeah, they all came
crazy.
Out.
And then
that
how
was a great standoff.
The Remy and
and there's a hit out.
Lavinia, how they kiss and they know like they gotta jump, and that's how it ends.
Poetic too.
It's very poetic. I love that. Like, Sai and Nick are waiting for her to show up at the storage unit.
Yes. So
and she's not there yet. So I'm like, I keep forgetting about her tracker. So I'm like, are they going to, because they know that there's a hit out on somebody. They don't know which one yet.
An error. Yeah.
So I'm wondering how far behind they are to getting over there.
Yeah. I think if they're like, okay, she's running late, let's check the tracker, things are going down, and they see that she's at the cliffs, they're going to know something's up. And especially if they see her in like running water, I feel like, first of all, they kept saying how cold it is. So like numerous times it was mentioned that it was cold outside. So I'm thinking like, okay, that water is going to be free. At first I was like, okay, 50-50 shot going into the water. Okay. Then I was like, wait a minute. We're going to have to deal with the hypothermia aspect. So I'm very anxious to see, where that leads those two characters. Like, are they going to be stuck in the wilderness, really cold, trying to fight their way, back home? Are they going to come get rescued? Like, how is this all going to go down? I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah. I am too. I'm curious on where it's going to go. My fear is that, if there's a hit out and the Barons took it.
Yeah. And they said
doesn't mean that another house doesn't take it either.
Oh, I hope not. And the Barons still might go after Nick.
And so that's what I'm scared of, is that they might, they might be going after, because it is meant for Nick, we find out, but that he was gonna just take them all out
and then take Remy. Yeah. I'm also excited to see Sai get more of a redemption. He kind of, he apologized, he left his journal, he, talked to his parents, and he did have that moment with Lavinia up on the belfry. But
it was like she didn't say that. Yes, she was still his girlfriend. She's like, I'm your Duchess.
So I'm excited to see that. I think there needs to be forgiveness. I like that we got, like, we're okay with Nick now. Like, Nick is her safe place. She has Nick, but she has a lot to work through with Remy and the cheating. And I think she can forgive him a little more. But Sai, and I think again she's going to forgive him, and I think she understands that like they have a lot of stuff to work through, especially like having their first time.
I know.
Like the real first time, because that was not.
I'm so nervous that I'm like, how are they going to make that happen? Because now they're both going to be so like, how is this going to come about? I'm so curious.
Maybe another sexual referee. A lot of lube. Yes. Somebody even said that. Someone said like
the doctor,
and I was like, yeah, lube is your lube.
Yes. Yeah. And okay. And so I also have to say, there were so many times where there was just banter, like when they were like the competitions between them and stuff, like little things like that. And then they're in their like trial at the courthouse, and like I was laughing at things that like, because all the kings were fighting and Killer would say something and this would happen. I was like, I'm like giggling. I'm reading this book and I'm like giggling at it all because I'm like, it's just, I love that the fun brings into it. And we got a lot of Killer in this book too. Yeah. And I just love seeing like my lords in it. And then, but I love the Dukes now so much too. I'm excited too. I'm curious on who are next. I know we have one more book. But I'm curious on who the next worlds. I am like down for the Barons, but I is it gonna be the prince? I don't really want the counts next. I feel like maybe the princes.
I'm hearing like in the group, like the rumor is princes next. I think it was like princes, counts, dukes.
Is that for sure? Like it's just a rumor. It's not like legit.
I think someone saw something written about. Like I think that it was. Someone saw something and then that's like been what people are saying, but who knows, because I know there was a poll once like who you wanted next after the lords, and like princes had won the poll, but then dukes had, it was dukes that came out next, so like who knows. But there's a theory going around that Verity will be the princess and it'll be the prince's neck. So that would be interesting because they did connect Dukes in the last book. Lavinia was connected, and like Story had felt so bad because she thought like Lavinia had taken her place, but really Lavinia had her own story with her father kind of putting her in Daniel Payne's care for a reason. So I think it's interesting that people are guessing, who, if it's going to be someone we've seen thus far. So I did see Angel Lawson write to somebody that like we weren't ready for the Barons yet.
Yeah.
So I think that the Barons are going to be really intense, but it's weird because the two houses that we're like focusing on the most in the story, other than the Dukes, are the Barons and the Counts. So.
Like, yeah, but we haven't gotten that much the Counts this book either. But we haven't really gotten a lot of like. I feel like we got more of the Lords than we got of anybody else, and the Barons. Well, so I think next book we'll see. I think we'll see, get an idea.
Because the question is like, if they kill Remy's dad and they kill Lavinia's dad, that's going to create a power vacuum. So that leaves, room for there to be a story. So who knows? For all we know, the stories could all take place around the same time. Like, even if the Counts and the Barons aren't next, when we do get their books, it could take place like right immediately after this story. Yeah. Because this is taking place we got the long epilogue of Lords, and this is taking place like the story is like senior year. So like they're still at the school. I think the guys graduate. The guys were like a grade or something older, so I think they're still like they're still the Lords right now, even though Killian is like the king. I think they're still in their last year of college. Wrath and
it makes sense because they're still doing like the activities and stuff.
Yeah. So like I think timing wise, it could really, these stories could happen at any time. I'm glad that like Perez is killed, so he's not redeemable. We don't want to see him in Count.
Yeah. Right.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. You're right. I didn't see it coming. It's like all of a sudden they just kill him off. He's decapitated.
There's his head. I love how he's like, I thought she would be more. I don't know how to give gifts, I guess, or something. I'm like, no, dude, you don't.
I love when they give body parts. I love when a male character presents the female with someone's body part.
Right.
Like the fingers he touched you with, or just his head. I'm down for that.
Right. I know.
But this was such a great, like you said, like it's not just these dark moments, and it's these funny little moments. The Archduke, and like you said, when they're like they're bickering, the whole kingdom. There's just so like many layers and like little things that just make the book, that make the series. It's really I think it's it's such a special series, and it's really enjoyable. It's enjoyable. Yeah, and they need to go through. I think all the guys had to have something that they had to be redeemed from, because they had to go through these things for their characters to grow and to be able to love Lavinia and find a way to love her. And she needed to go through things in order to like be loved. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got a lot of good I think we got a lot of good stuff in this one. And then just so much of the friendship group dynamic too. Cause there was even the part where like Remy and Pretty Nick noticed that Lavinia was like always grumpy every morning because Sai was getting some and Lavinia wasn't getting anything. And like how they would like they were looking at each other like, dude, when is he gonna get a hint and stuff? And I'm just like, I don't see. I'm like, I just love those kind of those little things that they were doing, you know? So
yes,
yeah, it was very, very well written, very enjoyable. And then like, you know, the classic reader, when's the next book?
I know. Going really quick, and Nick just kind of like staring at her and like always being around her, and her like starting like to put up with it, just accepting that Nick is just going to be like near her and looking at her all the time.
Yeah.
There's just so many good moments. It's really hard to like go to a different series after this.
Yes.
Like it's just, what do you do?
Oh yeah, no, I don't have. Sorry, I didn't even think about doing a hair of the book because I don't have one. Because I just finished this and I don't know what I'm gonna do next.
I don't know where to go from here. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to? What follows up? Maybe a reread. I will say that like if you haven't read Church yet, definitely read Church because it can give you that like dark romance, like a taste of some like a really good dark romance.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I don't know what to read.
Yeah, me either. Sorry, everybody.
That's why it's called the book over. We're completely book hungover from this one.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All I can say is if you haven't, if you haven't read those, go read them.
Yeah, do it. Maybe that will help.
We'll just be obsessing about these guys for the next couple months. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
But thank gosh we have like 10 or 11 more books in this world. Right. If they're all trilogies, you know, you can give me more than that. I'll take it. Let's create a new kingdom. I don't know. Just give me all the books forever, please. Right. Thank you, Sam and Angel, for not just choosing one or two, but like doing every single house. Like, thank you so much because these books are brilliant.
Yeah, they are. I'm really excited for them.
Me too.
Like the whole thing. To know that there's so much more to be. And now I'm just taking notes of everything too. I'm like, oh, this is like how this person acts, and this is this person. Like, because okay.
Okay, and we're gonna start using the colors, I think.
You know,
the color wheel.
I'm gonna like make one and like set it up so I can be like, you're very this today.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, I really need to do that. Then I just love, like, what a cool concept for this character. Yeah. To see colors and how he. It's just. I'm sorry, I can't get over how well that they write this series. It is just so. There's just these certain series that really. I don't know. They just live in your head and your soul, and they're just. Words can't describe how like not only enjoyable it is, but just like really I just appreciate every aspect of it so much. And the fact at the end in the author's note that they said that like, oh, you know, you're asking why this book is so long. I'm like, no, I'm like, this book is perfectly long. It's a full book. Yeah. And then they said they cut stuff out. I'm like, you cut stuff out? I want it.
I know, I saw that. I was like, don't cut stuff.
Don't cut it. Don't cut it. I'll take all of it. I will, you know, make the director's cut, like the author's cut.
Yeah, like, I want the author's cut.
I want the author's cut.
Yes, please. I know. I read the same thing. And I was like, no, don't cut out of it.
Don't ever do that. If you're gonna take an extra week or two, that's fine. I'll wait another week or two. That's fine. Give me the author's cut.
The author's cut. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the book, enjoyed the chat. Looking forward to the next one, which is Dukes of Peril. Thank you. I'm like, I know his last name. What is it turning into? Peril. Yeah.
Okay. I love that it's the last names for this one.
Yeah, I love that they're doing the last names for. I bet they're doing it for everybody, which is awesome.
Yeah, it was like first names, last names. I wonder how they'll do it next.
Yeah, it's very creative. Yeah. Okay. All right. Enjoy, everybody, and we'll see you next time on the Book Over.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.